As always, wonderful music today. I want to, before I get started, I just want to remind you that we're starting meditation again this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. This morning we had 32 people in here meditating before you got in here, and I'm sure it's part of the reason you feel something when you walk in the door, should you feel something when you walk in the door. What you're feeling is the residue of people sending love and acceptance into the room. And so we'll continue that on Wednesday nights. It is a wonderful way to break the week up, to open yourselves back up to your own deeper sense of belonging to yourself and to the world. And also then we'll also have a new members class, which allows you to deepen your commitment to the community. And as most of you know, community is part of the mental health regime. If you are in community, you tend to live longer, happier, and healthier. So joining is a good thing, not a bad thing, even among us cats. So let's do that. For those of you who were here last Wednesday night, Mimi had written out a beautiful ceremony for opening the World Day of Prayer. And the prayer chaplains did a beautiful job of putting it together. And I was sitting here with them, awaiting my turn, but listening to the words as they were speaking, and one of the things that struck me was a sense of longing. And I was somewhere in there was a question about, what do you want to pray for? And I realized that I wanted to deal with this longing. And the longing, I thought, might be a loneliness thing, and then when I listened deeper, I realized that the longing was really a longing for a more intimate connection with the divine. And that struck me as surprising, given, I'm sure it might be surprising to you, given what I'm supposed to be and what I do for a living. It was interesting that the next day I happened to be calling a friend of mine who had just retired from ministry, and she said, I was telling her about this, and she said, you know, I know what you're talking about. All the years I was a minister, I had my relationship with the divine, but it was a working relationship. I would expect it to show up when I was speaking on Sunday or doing something like that. And that was really the nature of my relationship. And I was struck that that's pretty much exactly how mine has gone. And I have been thinking, and I've been doing it now for almost, 27 years, so this is a long time to be in a working relationship. And I trust it and expect it, and I feel like it happens. But this longing was pointing to a missing. And I thought I would talk about that today with you, and maybe it's something that has been happening for you as well. That you may have many things working in your life. You may have a working relationship with the nature of the world, and it's going your way, or you may not. And you may have intimate relationships, or you may not. And you may have family and friends, or you may not. And any of those circumstances could still leave you with a longing, a missing piece. And this missing piece is not only defined as other. It could be the missing piece of loving yourself, of holding yourself in that place of love and acceptance, just as you are, with and without whatever you have. Having accomplished and having failed, having been forgiven and having been unforgiven for things that you have done, this sense of acceptance and love for yourself is very close to, and maybe the twin of, the love of the divine for you and you for the divine. It comes from the very close center of who you are. And it may be fed by both sides, and I think it is. So if you are looking to advance out of this sense of longing and into a sense of peace and acceptance, one in which there is a grounding in deep sense that you belong, that it's okay to be you, that you have and are what you're supposed to be. If that's something you want, then maybe this is the place to look. The great song that says, I've been looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, most of us know that one, don't we? We've had disappointing relationships with human beings. We've gone about searching for something that's satisfying and only to find it's not satisfying. We've thought somebody would be there for us and they have left. We've had those experiences. And we are left not as an unusual being when that happens, but like part of the human clan. It is common. It is, I don't know if it's universal, but it is very, very common to have been disappointed in your attempts to find love in this world. And maybe you have found it, but 50% of the people who find marriage don't keep with it forever, right? It turns out the woman I was talking to that was married 3 times. And she was saying that she went to Unity Village to get her credits together so that she could apply to ministerial school. And she was, if you've been to Unity Village, you may know how this works. There's a certain atmosphere in the village that's quite induction. It pulls you into an induction into the spiritual life. And she said that there were classes she was taking, but she said it was the first time I had been going about my day without looking on the left hand, third finger of every man I saw. She had found something that was deeper, that worked for her in that moment, that was not about someone with skin on, but that without skin on. And all of it is God. All of it is worthy. Relationships are quite important in our life. Love in a physical way, very important. Love in a personal way, very important. I do not mean to diminish that. But I just mean to say that even if you have that, you can still be one step away from peace. And so this is the practice I think we should pay attention to. Developing a relationship with God, the Spirit, yourself. This is potentially that coin that you have thought was you would never own, but has been in your pocket the whole time. Time for a joke? So a man about my age went to see the doctor. And the doctor did his test and took his blood and measured everything, and it turned out really good. And he says, "How are you feeling?" He goes, "I feel great." And he says, "And so how is your mental attitude?" He says, "I'm telling you what, I'm with God all the time. I'm with God so much, when I get up in the middle of the night, poof, the light comes on, and when I get ready to go back to bed, the light goes out." The doctor was impressed. So when his wife came in, he says, "Is that really true? He's so tight with God when he gets up in the middle of the night, the light comes on, and when he goes back to bed, the light goes off." She goes, "Dadgummit, he's peeing in the refrigerator again." Okay. So, the deep relationship with the divine. You can fool yourself, I suppose, but let's just talk about how to get there. I think one of the things is to recognize if you have a longing. It was the thing that struck me while I was sitting here on Wednesday night. I recognized I had a longing. I mean, it was not like a halvesies. It was like I really had that sense that, oh my gosh, something is missing here. And it's not like I haven't been exposed to it. It's just like it was not prioritized. And for those of you who know me intimately know that I'm very much about getting things done, I guess. And so sometimes I ignore my internal life until it's unpleasant. And here it was, reminder, that it was time to pay attention more deeply to the inner life and at this innermost core, which is really to give love to yourself and to give love in such a way that you surprisingly close the gap of what you are feeling. And many of you know how to give love to yourself. And it's not really about going to the spa. You know, that's marketing when they say that. That's not the truth. When you love yourself, it's only between millimeters that the distance has to be traveled. It is from the source to the source that you give this action. And the action is really based on intention. It is based on willingness. It is based on accepting yourself as you are, and where you can't, loving yourself no matter what. And waiting until it clicks and sticking with it long enough that you can feel something happen in your heart or in whatever part of you that is feeling the longing. You feel this shift. This is not going to the store and buying something. It is merely attending to yourself with kindness, love, and respect. It is saying things to you that you need to hear from yourself. And no one, even your best friend, spouse, sister, brother, mother, can never tell you what you really need to know if you are not listening. And you will not be listening unless you're willing to say it to yourself. You will be denying it. I was reading the Course in Miracles. It said, today I will accept the truth about who I am. I am the Son of God. Not meaning singularly, but we all are. And unless you take on that attitude that you are the divine here, right now, and you are the one, the son, the daughter, however you want to say it, that being which emanates from the one presence, one power, as you, and you speak to yourself with that degree of love and respect, knowing that everybody has made mistakes, and so that is not a disqualifier for being the child of God. And really attend to the idea, really deeply, that you really are that. And it's not just something we say here once in a while on Sunday, but it's the most profound truth that you can find. If you pull yourself into alignment with that thought and let your heart open to yourself, you begin to take a hole and fill it. And take that which has been a gap and shrink it to nothing. And the divine, though it may seem as other, and may be best for you, be best seen and spoken to about as other, that is also loving you. And always has. And has never judged you deeply as you have thought. It has felt for you your suffering, but it has never judged you about that. The one thing that you have wanted to be loved, cherished, and important just the way you are, as we have so often said to the kids, is exactly the truth of who you are. And you can read scripture that will tell you that from almost every tradition. You can hear Jesus saying it. You can tell that the Buddha got it. We are often dancing as though we really understand this, and yet, unless you feel incredibly loved and accepted, you have not got it yet. But it's not impossible to get. It's just as close as your breath. And it may take some practice. It may take some effort. It may take attending to it. It may take changing your mind about what's important. It may take some things for you to recognize it, but the recognition is as close as your own heart. You don't have to go to India. There's nothing you have to do but open to it. So if you have a longing, feel into it. Feel how much you want it. Desire in this place is your asset, not your liability. And then move toward that desire. Some scriptures from Deuteronomy, which is an Old Testament book, but it's also reflected in the New Testament in the conversation Jesus has with the scribes and Pharisees. In Deuteronomy, you shall love the Lord with all your heart and all your soul and all your might. If you did, you must also include you as that. Love yourself with all your heart, all your soul, and all your might. Love your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. And when you get done with that, you will love your neighbor as yourself. You can't help it. The practice of loving is the most important. St. Paul would say it this way in Corinthians. So now faith, hope, and love abide, these three. But the greatest of these is love. You don't have to have a defined theology. You don't have to have a faith that moves mountains. You merely have to love often enough, strong enough, with enough desire and intention for this to make a difference in your life. You don't have to be perfect. You don't really have to believe any particular thing. You just have to give it to yourself. So, Joe Dispenza, you know Joe Dispenza, right? Joe Dispenza is this now famous chiropractor who has done incredible work with helping people change their minds. He's actually written a book, How to Stop Being Yourself. Because we're so much of a habit, a series of habits, and part of what we lack is enough direct relationship, according to him, enough direct relationship with the powerful transcendent aspects of ourself. And so one of the things he says every day as his prayer was, make it undeniable for me. Show me something I cannot deny that proves this existence of the divine, our oneness, etc. Make it so. The prayer is, show me. Show me so I will find it easier to believe. And so then I'll act on it and I'll be like that more. Show me that. What a great prayer. And I have this sense that if we said that on a regular basis, you would find it. Have you ever looked around a room and said, show me all the red in the room? And there it is. Then you say, show me all the yellow, and then there it is. Or show me the green, and there it is. When you look for it, you will find it. When you knock, the door will be answered, right? You've heard that. I think another way of doing this, let me talk to you about the two basic ways to awaken. You can awaken as the divine, and you can awaken in a relationship to divine. And typically, people fall into either category when they awaken. They do it one way or the other. And when you awaken in relationship, you basically maintain your own identity. When you awaken as the divine, you lose your identity. And so many people prefer the relationship way because they still get to exist as a separate being. And so if you're going to do it as a relationship, you might use conversation as part of your practice. Having ongoing conversation with what may seem like other, but which can be quite intimate with you. You can awaken either way, and there's some chance in this society that most likely you'll awaken in the relationship way, because that's what we have had as a cultural basis, is predominantly forever. So think about this. Have a relationship that uses words, internal words, a conversation. Now, if you're awakening in I'm going to lose myself, dissolve myself into the one presence, then you may not end up with words. You may just awaken that way. I found this to be true when I was sailing over the last month. Paying attention to life and not so much to your thoughts will put you in a good place. Paying attention rather than talking to yourself and making plans. You know, everybody knows the joke. You know what makes God laugh? Tell him your plans, right? Staying present, staying alert to the moment, not letting imagination take over. Be present to your life, your circumstances. I was reading one more thing, which I think is really true, which is community is incredibly important in helping you get there. They were talking about training in Buddhism, and they said if people did meditation for 8 weeks, they turned out to be 16% more likely to be compassionate to someone else. They set up experiments to prove this, that they would be more compassionate. They also said if you move together, if you actually do things together, I realize that we do that when we do the whole welcome into this place. When you move together, you tend to have compassion and be much more willing to help someone if you have moved in synchronistic ways with someone else. Think of the marching that the armies make their soldiers do. They are in training them to be compassionate to each other and to care. And so now also you could think that if you were doing one more thing, which they didn't mention in the article, but if you could sing together, you would be developing compassion for them. And compassion and love are sisters. And so learning to do these things is part of the practice of awakening to your own divine nature and the deepening of relationship with the one presence, the one power. And so use this community for that. Don't let yourself think it doesn't really matter that you will be just as kind and just as beautiful a person if you don't come to church. That is not true. Finally, there were studies done on gratitude, and gratitude toward the one, toward all that is, lumped together. One of the things that happened, they did coin toss. So if you lied, an experiment they did with coin toss, if you lied about what the coin landed on, you would get more money than if you just told the truth every time. And 53% of the people lied. When they did the coin toss after having them focus on gratitude, only 27% lied. So, if you want to tell the truth, be grateful, right? And I think it just speaks to the very things that we say here all the time: forgiveness, compassion, meditation, being in community. These are the natural things that come when you're in the pursuit of your own deepest relationship with yourself and with God. And that becomes the practice. And it's not about what you believe so much as about your practice. So let's do a little practice. first, acknowledge where you are. In this room, in this body, in the chair. Now, let's move to acceptance that this is where we are. And as such, we have a body that breathes, whose heart beats, who has hungers, and sometimes pains, and sometimes pleasures. But realize you are not just that. There is this awareness which is more true than that. This soul, this spirit, feel into that. And then invite that spirit to practice loving in this moment. And let it love the body. Let it love the neighbor. And let it love itself. And bring up more power, more love, more intention. Let it be strong. Let it be courageous. And let yourself feel it. Let this be rewarding so you come back to it again and again. Let it be so, and so it is.